Here we go, episode 17, the last one of the college football season, national championship time. So we got Alabama Crimson Tide against the Ohio State University. And last week, we watched both semifinal games. A little more invested I was in the Ohio State Clemson one. But I was not, going into that game, I was not exactly confident about the Buckeyes' chances, which is why I gave the over, because I felt that was the only way they could win.
Great pick.
And, man, that game, oh yeah, I hit that. That game was just, from the get-go, so the first possession, you figured, Clemson gets the ball, they go right down and score.
Man, I thought they were going to run down. I thought it was going to be a different game after that first possession.
Yep, that's exactly how I knew it was going to start, was a quick score, because our defense did not seem to match up well. I knew we were going to be able to score, but then I don't know what happened. We just, linebackers, our defensive line clicked, and something that still stood out in that game with our defense is that our defensive backs are still not good enough, and I think that's going to be a problem because we watched Alabama take care of Notre Dame pretty handedly, and they got a Heisman finalist who is probably going to win it tonight, Devontae Smith.
Yeah, he's my vote if I had one.
So they're going to have to contest with that, and it's another uphill battle for the Buckeyes, but if it's anything like last week, I think it'll be a good game.
Yeah, I was super impressed with Ohio State's defensive line last week.
Yes,
and if they can play the way they did against Clemson, this is going to be a lot different of a game.
So yeah, and they did. Towards the end of the game, they started getting more and more pressure. They got stronger as the game went on. More pressure on Trevor Lawrence, and what I found out about Trevor Lawrence was, I think he's afraid of getting hit. There was times when he got hit and he was looking to the ref right away. I know one play he handed the ball off, ran a little fake, got blown up by Baron Browning, and then he's laying on the ground like arms up to the ref. It looks like he's afraid of getting hit, and I think NFL players are looking at that going, man, you put him on his ass one time, and he's not going to be able to accomplish anything.
I sit there. Trevor Lawrence is a tough player. I do know that from observing him. I mean, he might have gotten hit too hard. It got, in his head. I think he might be trying to salvage his health for the NFL. I don't know if it's one of those situations or, you're just trying to milk the ref to get the penalty.
Yeah. All right, so you're saying Trevor Lawrence got hit pretty hard in that game. Justin Fields got hit extremely hard.
Yeah.
I think broke a few ribs. They're not saying anything.
Trevor Lawrence still threw for more yards. But
Justin Fields threw two
60-yard
touchdown passes. He got 6 touchdowns and 6 incompletions.
Were both of those to Olave?
No, one was Olave, one was Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, Olave being back was huge for that game.
That's
big.
That
guy can ball.
Mm-hmm. So both those games, that sets up our national championship this week. Before we dive into that, we're each going to take a side. So Big Country's going to break down Alabama. I will go into more depth than what I have this season on Ohio State. We'll go with our picks and see how that shapes up. But before we do that, let's take a look at how our season went. Our very first podcast season, I gave out 97 picks, and I ended up 47-50. Now, I'm not a professional. It says on our bio,
two wannabe pro gamblers.
Professionals. But, ending 47-50 is not bad. It's about, that's close to 100 games, and I'm getting close to 50% right. Now we know, where you can always gain knowledge from your losses.
Yes.
So
if we're losing, we better be getting better.
Yeah,
that's all.
I think we will be getting better. So that was my record. What about you? I think you gave out just a little less than I did.
Yeah,
right?
and then on top of that, a couple of my picks got canceled throughout the year with COVID and everything. But I gave out 84 picks this year. So far, before the national championship pick, I am 42, 41, and 1. So still a 50% win clip out of 42 out of 84 picks. And that's kind of due to the rough start I had. Did a little deeper diving. Over the last 10 weeks, the last 10 episodes of this podcast, I have been 30, 18, and 1, running at a 61.2% win clip. In a bowl season so far, we've been 7-4, running at 63.6%. So, earlier this year when we just started the podcast, I was way too focused on the content rather than the picks. Once I started saying screw the content and just focused on winners, we started winning. So looking back, next year it makes me a lot more excited for it because I'll be able to just focus on winning and not care as much about just giving picks.
Yeah, and you went on a hot streak. You had our very first undefeated week.
Yeah.
And you started to pick it up. So I think all the proof is in the pudding on that one.
Yep. Hope you guys come back next year.
So what did you say your bowl season has been so far?
7-4.
7-4, and then I am 5-4. 5-4.
Yep.
Okay, so we're what 12-8.
Yeah.
Right? 12-8 on the Bulls is not bad at all.
We'll take that.
And then obviously it's the last one. I don't think we're gonna have the same pick, but
nope. We are going to disagree.
Good,
but that's good for everybody listening.
Yeah, but the breakdown we're gonna give, you're either gonna pick one way or the other, and you're gonna feel confident with it. So, all right, without further ado, national championship game. Do you want to start, or do you want me to take the reins here?
I know you're pretty passionate about Ohio State, so I'm gonna let you round it up. So I'll start off here.
Awesome.
All right. So national championship game. Ohio State versus Alabama. Alabama's laying 7.5 points over under 75. Kickoff Monday, January 11th at 8 p.m. Game will be played in Miami, Florida. And I'm going to go over Alabama and what they've done for this season. So the number one ranked Alabama Crimson Tide are currently sitting at 12-0. They have been 8-4 against the spread. And with the Heisman going on tonight, they have 2 Heisman finalists. This is Mac Jones and Devontae Smith. Mac Jones this year, star-studded quarterback for Alabama. He's thrown for over 4,000 yards, 36 touchdowns, and he's been limited to only 4 interceptions. Aside from that, the biggest number that stands out to me from all of his stats is his completion percentage. This guy has completed 77% of his passes thrown this year. I got to look up. I don't think that might be a record. I know Baker had a huge season a couple years ago, and I know Kyler Murray and Tua also had huge seasons when it came to completion percentage. But just looking at that number is absolutely ridiculous. Mac Jones' top threat, Devontae Smith. He was responsible for 105 receptions this year. That's ridiculous in college football. And that resulted in him gaining 1,641 yards through the air and scoring 20 touchdowns. With the Heisman Trophy being handed out or awarded tonight, I think it easily goes to this guy. I was looking at lines earlier this morning. He was a 1-10 favorite. So it's all but given to him already. And then across from Devontae Smith this year, they had John Mechie on the other side for Mac Jones to throw to. He's an athlete. He'll be a first-round pick eventually. He was able to catch 835 yards and 6 touchdowns, and he gained 17.8 yards per reception. If you don't know who I'm talking about, if you can think back to the SEC championship where Mac Jones threw one of his 4 interceptions this year, when the ball was being returned, the Florida DB did not see John Mechie coming from the side. He absolutely leveled him.
Rocked him.
Yeah, forced the fumble. Alabama got the ball back. I knew John Mechie was good, but we know that the guy's not soft either. So, I mean, I love having that guy across from Devontae Smith. And on top of that, they had another elite wide receiver, Jalen Waddle, that got hurt early in the season. Man, if they would have him right now, I'd be a lot more confident in Alabama, just because Mac Jones has an arsenal to throw to. And then when he's not throwing, he can rely on his running back, who is a beast. He reminds me a lot of the Derrick Henry Heisman Trophy days. He reminds me a lot of the Mark Ingram Heisman Trophy days. This is Najee Harris. Najee Harris started the season with a 5-touchdown game. Like, he made it known that he was here to play this year. He ended the season, or at least going into the national championship. He's got 1,387 yards on the ground and 24 touchdowns. I mean, every time he touches the ball, he's averaging 6.1 yards per carry. So these guys have been elite. I mean, it's the Alabama football we know. We don't really have to hype it up anymore. Their smallest margin of victory was the SEC championship, where they only won by 8 points against Florida. If you would have watched that game a lot more closely, you could see that they could have definitely won by 2 touchdowns. And their second smallest margin of victory was week 1 against Missouri. Understandable, because that's how you're just working out the kinks from spring ball. They went on to beat, earlier this year, they beat 5th-ranked Texas A&M 52-24. They pounded Georgia in. They just took advantage of Georgia not having an offense. They ran it up on LSU, letting them know that, or they won the Iron Bowl by 29 points. They ran it up on LSU. They let Arkansas have it. They took it a little easy last week at the end of the Notre Dame game. I did have Notre Dame in that game, so I do appreciate the penalty. Nick Saban, thank you. I have a feeling he's going to watch film and not let that happen this week. And if we go to the defense side of the ball, their leading tackler is Dylan Moses. Now, if you guys know Dylan Moses, he was one of the most highly touted recruits coming out of Louisiana a couple years ago. This kid was offered a full scholarship to LSU in the 8th grade. There's a video out there of him literally in 8th grade throwing his opponent 5 yards through the air like a child. This guy is scary. Tore his ACL last year, but he's back and leads the team in tackles. In the back end, they have over 10 interceptions. So Justin Fields is going to be up against a lot. This is an offense that scored 48.2 yards or 48.2 points per game, and is averaging 535 yards of offensive production. Alabama's going to be ready for this game. What are you thinking about for Ohio State?
Okay. All right, let's dive in then to the Buckeyes. First off, you got to talk about last week, how, a team that they were not picked to do well in that game. But what drove them in that game was the fact that they had bulletin board material and they had a sour taste in their mouth from last year.
A lot of passion went into last week.
A lot of passion. And it started from, because of that loss last year, how they lost. And then it kept building up with Dabo calling them the 11th ranked team in the nation, right? You would think that Saban is definitely not going to say anything himself. He's going to make sure his players are, their lips are sealed. They're not giving them any material. But Saban has his daughter running around on Twitter, tweeting out something about, you want to get your starting quarterback.
It is now deleted. Yep.
Oh, she deleted it, and I guarantee you he called her
immediately.
Yep. Saying play with your backup, play the game. Do we remember what happened the last time the Buckeyes played with a backup quarterback in the college football playoff?
Against Alabama?
Oh, yeah. So, wait, it wasn't even a backup. It was a third-string quarterback.
Yep.
Against Alabama, destroyed them. Went into Oregon, beat them for the national title in 2014. That was Cardale Jones. All right, so the Buckeyes, the culture around there, and especially with Ryan Day at coach, he's one of the most passionate coaches I've seen. You give them an inch, they're going to take a mile when it comes to hyping them up and talking about them. So I think that's one thing that the Buckeyes really have going for them. People can say this is an emotional letdown spot because they got so amped up for last week. How can you match that? It's the national title game. It's against Alabama. People, if we had fans in the stands all year, college game day, fans at college game day, you'd see every single week signs say, "We want Bama." That's been the motto for the the past, so many years.
Ever since Nick Saban's been there.
Exactly. Bama has been the standard. You
Yes.
want to play Alabama.
The standard.
So to say that, this is some kind of an emotional letdown spot, I don't think that's the case because you're always going to be ready to play Nick Saban in Alabama. So we talk about that. Look more in depth at the team that the Buckeyes are putting on the field. Justin Fields. I mean, just shy of 2,000 yards. Granted, these guys, and I know this is a knock, they've played 7 games, right? He has just under 2,000 yards. Completion percentage, 73.4%.
Mm-hmm.
All right. 21 touchdowns, 6 interceptions what were they? 3, I think, came. 3 might have come against Indiana.
Oh, yeah, I know he threw multiple. I don't know if it was 3.
I know last week he threw 6 touchdowns with 6 incompletions. But in the Big Ten title game, he only threw for like 150 yards. So he can go up and down, but when he has those big games, when he's got the long ball working, that's when it starts to come into play. We mentioned last week 2 deep touchdown passes to 2 different receivers. Obviously his 2 favorite targets. But Justin Fields has been a quarterback that, everyone had high expectations for him to win the Heisman. After last week's game, people are starting to think, where is he going to go in the draft? Is he better than Trevor Lawrence? Is he the number 1 pick? I don't think so, but he's proven himself to be a fierce competitor and someone who can get the job done. So they got a good quarterback. I'm not sure if he's going to be running in this game. Look for them to protect him a little more after taking that shot to the ribs last week. But with his passing game, he has a few receivers that are dynamite. I mean, they're not Devontae Smith good, but Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, both over 40 catches on the year, both over 660 yards on the year, both have a 55-plus yard touchdown. Olave has 7 touchdowns. Wilson has 5. Those are his 2 big-time receivers. You also have freshman Jackson Smith in Jigba. All right, that's another 5-star recruit, number 1 overall recruit in the wide receiver class from a year back. Okay, and what we saw last week was Ohio State utilizing their tight ends. You've never thought of Ohio State as tight end U. Last week, Jeremy Ruckert and Luke Farrell both decided they were going to just go off. All right, Ruckert has 5 touchdowns on the year, 12 catches for 115 yards. So when he catches the ball, he makes plays happen. That's just under 10 yards a catch. Luke Farrell just has the touchdown that he caught last week, but he's more of a blocking threat, and that's going to come into play with their running game. It was Master Teague at the beginning, and the Buckeyes, they really did not know what kind of production they were going to get from the ground game this year after J.K. Dobbins left for the Ravens. Master Teague was your more, put the nose down, 3 yards in a cloud of dust type running back. He's been on the shelf, so they've turned to Trey Sermon, who has had a Cardell Jones-like breakout in the Big Ten championship game and the semifinal game. Those 2 games, he has over 530-something yards in 2 games. He had 331 in the Big Ten championship. 868 yards rushing, averaging 7.5 a carry, 4 touchdowns in basically 2 games. Those 4 touchdowns came in 2 games. So Tracer, and he's starting to get his feet wet a little bit. Early in the season, we didn't know much about him. The one knock on him is he might be a step too slow. If he had one extra step faster, he breaks a few of those for touchdowns, but he's still a running back who he doesn't stay between the tackles. He will jump, find that hole like J.K. Dobbins did, bounce it to the outside, and he can make guys miss. Yeah. He also has a lethal stiff arm. So you got Trey Sermon. Steel Chambers is another running back, just a change of pace. But Mayan Williams, the freshman running back, had 2 runs last week against Clemson. Broke both to the outside with nasty jump cuts. One was for, I think, 15, 20 yards. That could be another factor in this game. So the offensive firepower for the Buckeyes is there. Let's look at their production on offense. Let me pull that up real quick. Here we go. I mean, 6th in total yards, 530 a game. Rushing yards, they're 5th in the country, 275 a game. 42.5 points a game is good enough for 8th, and they do not turn the ball over. Roughly 3 turnovers, they're 26th in the nation. The one knock is, and I don't understand this, but I guess it's because Fields did have a few clunkers of games. 250 yards through the air, 42nd in the nation. I think it's kind of skewed because then you see Justin Fields go out there and he's able to throw 60-yard touchdown passes like it's nothing, like effortless through the air. All right, that's the offense. I told you I'm long-winded with the Buckeyes. I can talk about them all night if you give me a chance. Defense. This is where I had worries going into Clemson. I still have some worries, but not as much. Our defensive backs, Sean Wade, best in the conference. Not sure why. He's going to be going up against Devontae Smith. He's got 2 picks on the year, but he just looks lost out there at times. So I think what's going to really help him out is the defensive line that they showed up. They got stronger as the game went on last week. You got Jonathan Cooper, Haskell Garrett, the guy who got shot in the face, went in one cheek out the other. They were destroying Clemson's offensive line last year. Cooper has 3.5 sacks. Tommy Togoya, yeah, that's right, I said it, Togoya, he has 3 sacks. The line's good. Linebackers, you got Browning and Hilliard on the outsides. They're trying to fill the void that Chase Young had, but it's just not going to happen until next year. And then, as much as I hate them, Pete Warner and Tuff Borland, the 2 10-year seniors at Ohio State, manning the middle as linebackers, both leading the team in tackles, 46 and 34. The knock on them is they are not quick enough to cover a running back. So the Buckeyes need to be able to spy wherever Najee Harris is going out of the backfield. Because if they watched anything that Clemson did, Clemson in that first drive, little quick routes out of the backfield that ETN was able to catch, get upfield, get the first down, and keep it moving. So I think the Buckeyes' defense is where we're going to have to really turn it up to keep this one close. What was the over? The total's like 75. With the amount of firepower we have on offense and the lack of defense, it could hit that 75. But our defensive ranks showing against Alabama is not the best. Granted, we are 34th in total defense. We give up about 350 a game. 7th in stopping the rush, though, at 96.7. And we give up 21 points a game. So offense is there. Defense, I think, after last week comes in. But the bulletin board material from Saban's daughter and the national media saying, not giving the Buckeyes a chance, saying, Bama's too good. That's what's going to be a difference. Ryan Day feeds on that stuff. All right, so
all right,
there it is, man. I told you.
My little analysis here.
Okay, what do you got?
So I am going with Alabama minus 7.5.
Okay,
and that is because when I look at these teams, the most reliable and safest unit for me to bet on this field is on that Alabama offense. They are elite in every sense of the word. Even with the injury of Jalen Waddell, they were able to average over 48 points and over 500 yards per game. Now, like I said last week, Ohio State's defense was really impressive, at least their front seven. Their back end still let them down. Trevor Lawrence did throw for 400 yards still. I don't see that number getting any better in this game. I was not impressed with the wide receivers from Clemson. I didn't realize it. I mean, now you look back, you're like, man, they played in the ACC all year and Notre Dame.
Yep.
I mean, I still think Clemson deserved to be in the playoff 100%, but maybe we were overvaluing them just a little bit. But I don't see that number getting any better against just an offense with an arsenal of elite weapons and first-round draft picks. Ohio State's front seven will definitely have to focus on stopping Najee Harris, like you said. So if they focus so heavily on stopping his production, the secondary will be left out to dry. If Ohio State wants to win this game, they have to be able to catch up or keep up. I think the worst case scenario is that for Alabama is that they put up 35 points, and I think that's the minimum they score. So, with Fields' health in question, I mean, there's no way he doesn't play. But just how good is he going to be for this game? And you touched on this earlier. I'm kind of with you on this isn't like a huge emotional letdown spot, but there were don't get me wrong, there were a lot of emotions spent last week. Ohio State's whole mission this year was revenge. They got it. So I mean, I know Ryan Day doesn't run his program to be satisfied with a Clemson win, in the semifinal, but let's not act like last week wasn't there. They enjoyed that win. Let's just say that. I was watching that game at a sports book last week, and I could really feel. I just knew the passion that Ohio State's fan, because I was in Buckeye country watching this game. Man, the whole game they were just cussing Clemson left and right. The passion and hatred for Clemson was oozing last week. They don't have that same hatred for Alabama. They actually maybe respect Alabama since Cardale Jones beat them. This line prior to the Clemson Ohio State game last year, when Alabama won, they released look-ahead lines. The look-ahead line for Clemson was Alabama -4. The look-ahead line for Ohio State was -11. I mean, that's a 3.5 point swing off of one game where they got beat down physically pretty badly. I could see this game ending around Alabama 45, Ohio State 31. That just covers the over, but I'm going to stay away from the total. I got to rock with Alabama -7.5.
Okay. All right. We made it here with me picking the over in last week's game because that was the only way I could go with the Buckeyes without picking that point spread because I was not confident. I'm confident this week. Buckeyes plus the points. What is it at, 7.5?
Yep.
When did the Buckeyes last play Alabama?
It's Cardale Jones.
Cardale Jones,
yep.
Right? Let me pull something up for you really fast, okay? It was January 1st, 2015. Okay? The spread in that game, Alabama -7.5. Buckeyes won 42-35.
Ooh. Okay.
All right. So now we look at the trends for this game, and so I'm looking at some matchups here. Bama scores more points. They give up less yards on defense, and they're also winning the penalties. But the Buckeyes do gain more yards on offense, control the time of possession better than Bama, better in the red zone and with the kicking game. The Buckeyes, see, when you look at Ohio State offense, Bama defense, Buckeyes offense looks, on paper, better than Bama's defense. They gain more yards, rushing yards is through the roof, and then passing yards, they just barely edge out that Bama defense. Now, if you look at Bama's offense against Ohio State's defense, Bama's offense, total yards, they got the edge over Ohio State's defense. Passing yards, receiving yards, obviously, edge over the Ohio State defense. Rushing game, the Buckeyes have the edge because they have one of the best rushing defenses in the country. They're giving up 89 yards a game, it's a 187% against average teams. Mm. So against the average in the country, they're 187% plus.
Yeah.
So they have an edge on the defensive side of the ball. That's where it's going to start. The Buckeyes are going to ride this momentum. They're going to ride it to a national championship victory. I'm feeling it. Let's look at just a couple of trends for you. Buckeyes 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 games in January. 4-1 in their last 5 neutral site games as an underdog. 6-2 in their last 8 bowl games. Alabama 1-4 in their last 5 bowl games against the spread. 1-4 in their last 5 bowl games, obviously as favorites. 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 bowl championship games. 2015, Bama was 7.5-point favorites, lost. 2021, Bama 7.5-point favorites. They're going to lose again. We're going Ohio State plus 7.5. They're going to win the national championship, and it's going to come a day after the Browns lose to the Steelers.
So
in the playoffs.
are you just going to take the money line?
Yeah, I'm taking the
money maker.
Yeah, let's end the season with
it.
it.
Yeah, we can end
We're
it.
going to take the spread and the money line. What can you get the money line at right now? Do you have that up?
I'll pull it up real quick.
All right, well, you pull that up. I do want to say Ryan Day, the guy, I've never been more fired up listening to that guy talk after a game, and I've never hated someone more than Dabo Sweeney after he said, they go, do you regret ranking them at 11? Do you regret giving them that material? He goes, I don't think that was material for him. I don't think that pumps up a team. Bullshit. You're an idiot. What do you got?
You can get him at plus 240.
All right, give it to me.
All right.
There we go. There it is.
Alrighty.
The last game of the year.
The last episode of this year.
We might, and I haven't even looked at any of the prop bets. I might look at a little Trey Sermon rushing yards. See what kind of props we got there. Let's go with Trey Sermon rushing yards and probably, Devontae Smith receiving yards. I'd look at.
Even Mechie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good.
Yeah.
I'd actually look
they're
at
gonna
him
have
before
Sean
Smith.
Wade. But Sean Wade really, man,
He's terrible.
He's not doing too well. He's not the first
Plays
round.
10 yards off the ball too.
Yeah,
And he keeps backing up.
he just keeps kind of hurting his draft stock the more he's.
I think the Trey Sermon rushing yards would be a good one to look at.
Man, yeah. I mean, it's got to be high, so I would naturally just be looking under because he's rushed for 500 yards, over 500 the last 2 games. I mean, I'll keep.
We'll look at those throughout the week.
Yeah, and we'll be
we
tweeting
still
those
have
out.
we still have close to a little less than a week.
Yeah,
So
6 days.
I'm definitely going to be playing some kind of props in there, but we're going to lock those.
Yeah, and
those
there's
bets
going to be
in.
a lot of props on this game. I mean, this is the Super Bowl of the NCAA. So
Absolutely. All right. Do you have anything else on this game?
no, I mean, if we look back 2 years ago to the 2018 championship, Devontae Smith was the one who caught the game-winning touchdown catch.
Okay.
I'll be looking for. He's very familiar with the situation, so I'll be looking at a couple of props from him. You can catch that at Big Country Bets on Twitter.
There we go. All right. Like you said, Big Country Bets on Twitter, Accountant Bets, and then CF Payoff Pod. Is that our Twitter?
Yep.
All right. We will be on YouTube, Spotify, Pandora,
Deezer.
iTunes, wherever you get your
Google.
podcasts. Like, subscribe, comment, share, follow, all that good stuff.
Review.
Yes,
Rate.
review. And, I mean, that's the end of our inaugural season
Yes.
of the College Football Payoff Pod. Thank you to everyone who listened. Thank you to those who reached out, followed our Twitter pages. Obviously, we're going to be looking to upgrade as much as we can, give you guys
Maybe
more
some online visual clips.
Yeah.
The whole 9 yards.
more contact, get a video going, and definitely more in-depth picks on games that you guys want to see. So that's it. You got anything else?
No, thank you guys for listening this year.
Yes, thank you. But be sure to like, subscribe, comment, tell your friends, and share. And that'll do it. I will sign off with a nice Go Bucks. And there we go. All right. So everyone, happy week, happy weekend, happy national championship, and happy betting.